Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Japano Toyzu, where we shall be continuing the Goldran look with the main guy himself, Goldran. So let's get straight on to the video, and thank you for the people that helped me create this one this time round. You know who you is. So we'll start off this review with Dran, and keeping with the usual aesthetic of this toy line, you can tell that he is gold chromey goodness once again. He also has two stickers on his back doors and one giant red jewel on his back, which is a little weird, because cars don't usually have them, right? Ah well. And in my opinion, he looks really good. He is a lot better than Leon, who wasn't completely chromed, while this guy is. But don't worry, he still has that lovely visible robot underneath him. But what are you going to do? It still happens in today's Transformers, so don't blame the toy. But now, on to Dran's transformation. Just like Leon, he's very simple to transform as you unfold the legs and flip up his dinky little feetsies, and epically flip him up. Pulling out the arms is actually quite a fun thing to do to reveal his head. And this is really it for Dran. So here's Dran in his robot mode, and I won't waste any time, we'll move straight on to the guy's detail. So we'll start off first with Dran's legs, and they're not really good, mainly because of what they have to do in future transformation modes. But they look nice for what they are, but you can really tell they're not designed to be legs, especially with his stubby little feetsies. However, the chest is a bit more interesting with this nice V-shaped sticker on his chest. The only problem is you can probably tell there are two screw holes where you need to kind of put the sticker over the top, and the sticker can sink in a little, which kind of sucks. But again, this guy has a nice red jewel on his chest. The only problem, again, I would say with the main body part is it is a bit bland and a bit black, bar the jewel and the sticker, which help break up the complete blackness of it all. Now his shoulders are probably the most sculpted detail piece on this little guy, and his arms are a little bit thin. There's not much detail on them, I'm afraid, but that's because they do form, as you saw, part of his door, so what are you gonna do? Finally, we'll talk about his head, and it is a little bit generic for the Brave toy line. A lot of these smaller mainline robot characters seem to have this very similar head sculpt. But it's not bad, it's just a little bit generic for the Brave series. Okay, enough of that now, and we'll move on to Dran's articulation, limited though it may be. His shoulder moves up and his elbow does bend 90 degrees, but you need to make sure that this screw right here is nice and tight, or his arm will flop around quite vigorously. The other side does the same, surprisingly, and that top bit moves as well. Oh yeah, and you've got this really nasty joint. Oh yeah, I'll actually show you. You see this tiny nub in here, right about there. Yeah, that's got to go into that slot, and you got to really wrench the joint out. It goes fine back into place, but oof, it's a little bit scary. But that's really about it for his articulation. Onto his accessories now, I think. Okay, so here is his small katana, and it's quite nice for what it is. It's actually got a nicely detailed handle, which I was surprised about, but it also has this little tiny nub here, and I'll show you what that's for right now. If we grab Dran and we'll lift his arm up, you'll see a small slot, because yes, you can actually store the sword on his side, which is awesome for a little tiny samurai robot, though it does make him posing with the sword not amazing. I still think it's a really nice feature to have on him. And strangely enough, Dran is actually connected to Transformers in more ways than you might imagine. That's right, he has an uncanny resemblance to Galaxy Force's own Exilion. The car mode is obviously a newer, updated version of what Dran's is, with a couple of tweaks to it, but for the most part you can really see the similarities in this mode at least. In robot mode, the similarities continue, with both Exilion's skinny arms and his shoulders being pretty much the same as Dran's. It's kind of cool to find these things out and just see how Transformers of today have borrowed from toy lines of the past from 1995. It shows that Dran and the Goldran series were, if simple, quite effective in what they did. But really, he looks a lot better when you stand him next to Leon, because these two are a nice little team together. But There is another thing that Dran must do. He must summon And here we have Goldran, a giant Godzilla-like creature, and we'll first talk about his articulation. So we'll first have a look at his arms, and they have 2 bits of articulation in, and don't do too much. His little jaw moves up and down a little bit, but not really. His other arm, surprisingly, does the same. Tail has no articulation, I'm afraid. Neither do the legs, but oh well. So he's very, very stationary as a robot dinosaur. However, for what he is, I think he looks very impressive as a giant golden Godzilla-like monster. But just like Leon when the time is needed, Dran can summon his courage and combine! With a relatively simple transformation, Goldran is able to pull off a really cool transformation, although the legs here are a little bit fiddly. But once you've done this a couple of times, you'll get used to it, and the rest of the transformation is definitely entertaining. Splitting his tail apart now, you rotate them up and form his arms and shoulders once you click them into place. And you do the same for the other side and rotate them up. Now the toy surprisingly shows us some early automorphing. As you pull his tail down, the cannons go back into his shoulders. Now with a really cool hand reveal, which I love, you spin his forearms up into the normal robot position. And now Dran's transformation is pretty much a reversal of his original transformation mode, with only a couple of changes. Now with his chest complete, shove it into his cavity. Shoving the jaw into the back of the head helps reveal his hidden face. Finally lower the neck down and the golden samurai of justice is here. Looking at Goldran's articulation, we'll find that he has some awesome clicky shoulder joints as we can turn them all the way around if need be. His arms also move in and out, but that's really due to the transformation, and when you move them up, the little cannon kind of pops out slightly. He also has a bicep swivel and his elbows kind of click as well, which is kind of cool. His legs can kind of go forward, but not really. And the little flaps on his legs open up to reveal his more leg joints, but really they're not desperately useful and don't really help too much. But, you know, it's pretty good for what the toy is and when it was made, I'd say. Looking now at his detail, we'll start off with his legs. And there's not a lot of sculpted detail on his legs, but to be honest, the sculpt and the look of it is actually quite impressive. It gives the feel, to me anyway, of a armored up human leg, which is quite funky. And he also shares the same styled stickers on his knees as Leon Kaiser did. So it's again a nice way to keep the figures looking like they're part of the same line. His lower torso shows his connection to the samurai roots again by having this armoured skirt. And now what made Dran a little bit silly with his legs actually adds a lot of cool detail to Goldran's chest. I love the giant ruby in his chest. That always gets me and makes me think, wow, that looks awesome. And the random stickers on the back of Dran's doors, again, add a lot of cool detail to this guy. Not only is it cool that Goldran has giant cannons in his shoulders, but the chrome-plated tail in the dinosaur mode really helps make this look like awesome samurai armor. Thanks to the way that the tail transforms, it gives him a really nice chunky forearm, and adding that gold sticker makes it look like he's wearing some kind of armor across his hands as well, which is actually a really nice, cool detail that they've done. Looking at the face now, you can tell there's been a lot of detail added here as well, with the ruby eyes, which is a really nice touch by the way, and the detail and rivets they've added to the actual chrome. It's a really nice helmet for Goldran. And this is where Goldran really completely topples over Leon Kaiser. Leon Kaiser tried to do the effect of the face inside the mouth and kind of failed and looked a little bit ridiculous. I really don't think that's the case here. I think they've managed to pull it off really successfully. And the face itself is in line with the usual Brave kind of face, but I don't mind that because it's cool. I really do like this face. All in all, this makes an impressive robot to stand on your shelf. But now let's have a look at his accessories. Okay, so the first of his accessories are the missile spurs, because he has a lot of missiles. But his only other accessory really is the katana and the katana sheath, which is kind of cool to have. It's a great sword, I'll be honest, and the sheath's nice as well. But let's have a quick look at the sword. It's got a really nice handguard on, and it's a really good sized sword for the kind of figure we've got. But we'll just slide it back in there, and that's really about it. But you can count that if you like. But now I'll show you another cool feature about his katana sheath. Remember how the little guy could have it pegged on? Well, here are 2 pegs, and guess what you do? As we lift his arm up, we can simply peg it into these 2 slots, and he can have it just like Dran had it. I love being able to store the swords on the robot. It's ace. And hey, it keeps adding to the awesome samurai motif they're going for. Another feature of this toy are the cannons in his legs, which can be deployed in his Tyrannosaurus mode as well. And you just flip them up, and there you go. And you can put a little red missile in, and you push the lever there, and it fires. Now, I don't like them desperately, but it gives a bit more playability to the figure, I suppose. Speaking of firing missiles, here is another one. If you get your little red missile here, and you put it in his forearm, like Leon, he can shoot it out. And you press this tab here and boom! Now I've lost the missile. And he indeed has one more firing missile gimmick in his shoulder here. And if you move his arm up, like I said, it pushes this bit forward and it reveals this tab here. And, you know, that helps with the transformation and whatnot. But if you grab this little bit here and you twist it, it's kind of like Sorakage's, as in it fires the missiles for you without needing springs, which is kind of funky. When you combine his accessories and his play features together, you get a really solid toy here. One that's great to play with, great to look at. I love the aesthetic for this guy. I think it's fantastic. Hang on a moment. Did you hear that?
Finally up. Now I can get my revenge. What? Oh no. Not again!
Your villainy will end here and now, Destro! Taste my justice!
Wah!
Oh, Destro, you deserve it for being evil.
Revenge? Revenge?
Yeah, be quiet. Anywho, as you can imagine, Goldran can combine with Sorokage exactly the same as Sorokage combined with Leon Kaiser. And as you can imagine, the steps to create this combination is pretty much the same, so I'll sit back and watch the video with you guys. Behold, Sky Goldran. And having a quick look at this figure, again, I think it totally succeeds over Leon Kaiser. Especially when you give him his sword, he looks really intimidating with those giant wings and missile launchers everywhere. Oh, beautiful looking toy. But enough about me gushing over his look. He does have articulation as well, surprisingly. So then, looking at Sky Goldran's articulation, his arms are fine, and Sorakage's wings in the back move fine as well. Nothing has been hindered at all here, not even the gun barrels on his back, just like Leon Kaiser when he combines as well. On his own, Goldran is a fantastic toy, but as you've seen, Sorokage is a great accessory to make this toy even better than it used to be. If you can pick these guys up, I really would recommend it. They're fantastic to look on a shelf and even better to play with, in my personal opinion. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.
I will no longer take this humiliation. With this machine, I shall open a rift in space and time and summon a minion from another world to help me in my revenge. doing? This isn't what I planned! Stay back!
I shall grant your wish. Accept this power.
No!
Now, my plans shall